Hey there, welcome to Livewire. I'm Luke Burbank. We have a very full and very fun show for you this week. First up, it's Sam Sanders, the creator and one-time host of NPR's It's Been a Minute, which, of course, masterfully blended politics and pop culture. Turns out that's kind of Sam's whole brand, and now he's doing it over in the podcast space, including his show Vibe Check that he currently co-hosts with Saeed Jones and Zach Stafford. We are going to talk to Sam about an interview that I did back in 2007 that was so bad, Sam now teaches it to his journalism students. Then Reggie Watts is going to stop by for some highly improvised, highly hilarious stand-up comedy and poetry. And we're going to get some music from Northwest indie music sensation Sway Wild. This is going to be so good. I'm not even kidding. Stick around. It all starts right after this. Hey, it's Luke. If you are a fan of comedy, please listen to the words that I am saying right now. There is a podcast that I really want you to add to your podcast queue, and it's called Nobody Listens to Paula Poundstone. The irony of that name is that everybody should listen to Paula Poundstone, my good friend, and also Adam Felber, the co-host, another good friend of mine. What they make each week is sort of like a variety show, also mixed with a late night show. There's a lot of public radio wit involved, like you know that Paula is really the standout cast member of Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me. In fact, when I'm on that show, I always see a look of sadness in the eyes of the fans who have come out to the show because they realize I am not Paula Poundstone. Now, Adam Felber, also on Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, he's hilarious. The fans are only excited when they see Adam Felber. And together, Paula and Adam just have this really wild ride that's really funny. It's really informative. You need to hear Paula Poundstone try to understand QAnon. I'm not saying she got there. I'm just saying listen to her try to understand QAnon or talk to like a bona fide or rocket scientist or whatever. If you're going to look for an episode to start with from the Nobody Listens to Paula Poundstone, maybe start with the one they did called Everything You've Ever Wanted to Know About Microbes. It does have that. Everything You've Ever Wanted to Know About Microbes. Also, they had Joel Thurman. That's the legendary casting director with all kinds of crazy Hollywood stories. Check those two episodes out. And make sure you get Nobody Listens to Paula Poundstone. It is an absolute riot. You do not want to miss it. You can find Nobody Listens to Paula Poundstone on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to hilarious podcasts. Hey, Elena.
Hey, Luke. How's it going?
It is going really well this week. I am excited to play this round of station location identification examination with you. Are you excited?
Yes, so excited.
I think part of my excitement is that I already have the answer. So this is very easy for me. This is the easiest part of the show. For me, this is where I quiz Elena about a place somewhere in the country where Livewire is on the radio. She's got to guess the place that I am talking about. Historically, this town was known as the sweet pea capital of the nation. At one time, it was responsible for exporting 75% of the nation's sweet peas.
Oh, sweet peas. That sounds very Southern.
It does, and yet it's not. Actually, it's a little more northwest. This town serves as a gateway to Yellowstone National Park and the Gallatin National Forest.
Well, there are several gateways. We came in on the Montana side at the top.
You're in the right state.
Far from Bozeman, but probably a state. Oh, no, Bozeman.
That's right.
Bozeman.
Where's my bell? Ding, ding, ding. Bozeman, Montana, where we're on the radio on KMBC-FM, Yellowstone Public Radio. I feel more outdoorsy already just saying that. Yellowstone Public Radio. So
I'm feeling more like Kevin Costner.
Yes, that is a hit show, let me tell you. Just ask any of your grandparents.
We call it Cowboy Game of Thrones.
All right. Are you ready to get to the show?
Let's do it.
Take it away, cowboy.
From PRX, it's... This week, podcaster and pop culture connoisseur Sam Sanders.
I cannot name an unhappy woman rapper. Cardi B's having a great time.
She sure is.
Megan Thee Stallion got shot in the foot. She's still having a great time.
Yeah.
And comedian Reggie Watts.
And Gen Z is like so fascinated with Michael Landon, which I don't get it. But it's all like Michael Landon all day long.
with music from Sway Wild and our fabulous house band. I'm your announcer, Elena Passarello, and now the host of Livewire, Luke Burbank.
Hey, thank you so much, Elena Passarello. Thanks to everyone tuning in from all over the country, including in Montana on KMBC-FM, Yellowstone Public Radio. We have such a fun show in store for you this week. All kinds of surprises popping up, which I'll explain in a moment. And we did ask our Livewire listeners a question like we always do. We asked, what has been your favorite piece of pop culture from the past year? We're going to talk pop culture with Sam Sanders. So we'll read those listener responses coming up in a moment. First, though, we got to do the best news we heard all week. This is our little moment to reflect upon the fact that there is some good news happening out there in the world. Elena, what is the best news you heard all week?
Okay, I think we've started a trend, Burbank, kind of unintentionally, but a couple best newses ago, I told the story of that dog named Bret Michaels that got adopted by Poison's Bret Michaels. And then you told a story about a pig named Kevin Bacon that got found via a search effort that also included human Kevin Bacon. So I'm going to just perform an American trilogy of sorts because there is a 3-year-old pit bull terrier who until recently was at the Chicago Anti-Cruelty Society named Elvis. Last month, the Chicago Anti-Cruelty Society had a fall in love. It should have been a can't help fallen in love adoption event where they waived their application fee in order to sort of clear the cages of the shelter. And they adopted 39 cats and 22 dogs to good homes. And there was only one dog left at the end of the event. And it was Elvis. They posted about it on social media, and there was this couple, Lauren Agron and his partner Drew, and they've been thinking about getting a dog forever, and they saw the post, and honestly, if you saw a picture of this dog, you would adopt it even if you didn't have, even if you lived on a motor scooter or something. You would totally. He's a kind of white and gray with this little eye patch and the sweetest face. So they saw him, they ran and adopted him because guess what else? Have you ever heard of this kind of famous 1950s style diner in Chicago called Ed Debevic's?
Yeah, Ed Debevic's. The shtick is that the servers are rude to you.
And apparently they're all in costume, right? And the guy, Lauren, who adopted Elvis, he manages that place, but he used to be a server and he would perform dressed as a character named Elvis Parsley. An Elvis impersonator has adopted the world's cutest pit bull, whose name also happens to be Elvis Presley. Lauren says he's a misfit, and Drew and I consider ourselves the kings of misfits. He is a cuddly hunk of burning love. He's a loving teddy bear, and his friends and neighbors are all begging to visit the dog and help take care of him.
My best news that I saw this week also involves animals, but it involves now the recognized world champions of napping, and that would be penguins. As reported in the New York Times recently, in fact, specifically chin strap penguins that were being studied by the Korea Polar Research Institute. They were trying to figure out what happens when penguins are in the water versus when penguins are nesting with their young and doing things like when are these birds getting some sleep. So they hooked some of these chin strap penguins up to electrodes, which I feel like immediately might futz with the data. I don't know. I'm not sleeping great if you hook those electrodes up to me, but whatever. This is what we got to do.
To their chin straps.
Right. So they found that when these penguins were in the water, they didn't sleep at all, which kind of makes sense. But then when they would get back home and they would be with their young and they'd be hanging out, the speed of their brains would slow down in a way that would indicate they were sleeping up to 600 times an hour. They were sometimes taking 600 micro naps in an hour.
And it counts for rest. They get good rest from that.
Well, this is the thing that they're trying to figure out, right? Because the thought with humans is for us to get, rest that's useful. It needs to go on for a certain amount of time. There turns out a lot of animals, including penguins, that just do these micro naps all day, probably because they're trying to, not get eaten by some bird of prey swooping down on them. But there's an emerging body of science that says these very, very short, 1 to 2 second naps might be sufficient. This explains so much, Elena, about my particular family structure, which is my daughter Adelaide and I. I'm going to show you something. Our whole thing is penguins. So whenever one of us sees like a little dad penguin and baby penguin out in like an antique store, we buy it. And then I get the big one and she gets the little one.
Aw.
We are also world-class nappers. There was also something else in this article that really blew my mind. One researcher at the University of Oxford was really asking the question, are we as animals designed to be awake or designed to be asleep? Like we think of ourselves as awake things that go to sleep sometimes. And this one guy was saying, maybe we're asleep things. Maybe our brains are set to being asleep and we have to wake up to get food and do all these other things so that we can then go back to sleep. He said, you're basically spending your life asleep and you just wake up when it's needed. He's questioning the whole premise of sleep in both penguins and humans.
Wow. My husband is definitely someone who lives to sleep, so he might want to contact him for this study.
I'll send him a small penguin, a David-sized penguin. All right, penguins making me feel more seen in the world. That's the best news I heard this week. All right, let's welcome our first guest on over to this week's Livewire. He's a podcaster, radio personality, and pop culture connoisseur. He was the founder and former host of NPR's It's Been a Minute radio show, and these days he hosts the very delightful and very delightfully thought-provoking podcast called Vibe Check, which he hosts with Saeed Jones and Zach Stafford. Take a listen to this. It's Sam Sanders, who joined us on stage at Town Hall in Seattle. Sam, welcome to the program. We've had you on the show once before, but it was when we were still doing a lot of stuff remotely.
Yeah, I was in my garage.
I love Vibe Check so much.
Thank you.
And it's like
Thank you.
for people who haven't maybe heard the show yet, can you kind of describe how it unfolds, what y'all do on the show?
Yeah. The nut graph is that Vibe Check, the podcast, is our group chat. The three of us just come to life. So the chats that we would have, texting to each other, we were like, let's make it a show. The longer version of the story is that the three of us had been circling the others for years, professionally, etc. And Saeed and Zach became friends first. I met Saeed and Zach through work stuff at NPR. And then I kind of said, y'all are my friends now, I'm sorry. This is it. And then I made them get into this group chat with me that we called The Witches of Macbeth. And then one day during deep pandemic, I finished an interview for It's Been a Minute. And I finished it, and I was in a funky mood the whole day. Not because of the interview, but I was in a funky mood the whole day, and I said, well, Sam, what would make you happy? What do you want to do right now? And I was like, I want to talk to my friends. And I want to talk to them all the time. So we did.
Wow. On the subject of the podcast world and how these shows come together, I'm just curious, sort of your thoughts on the state of podcasting. It feels like it's in a very weird place considering it was supposed to be the future of how all communication happened.
If I had to offer a one-sentence mission statement for survival in the podcasting industry right now, it would be being good is not enough. A lot of the shows that we like are really good. Most of them don't make any money.
Right.
They don't.
Yeah.
I'm looking at myself too here, okay? But that doesn't mean you don't keep trying to make good stuff. And it's a lesson in separating your art from your worth, from your job. So that's a good thing to do. But I think that, like, until the money is not funny, this is just the way it's going to be, and it's going to keep happening. So, like, the biggest reason for this drastic drop-off in podcast listening is advertising. Some advertisers have just stopped doing it in podcasts and taken it elsewhere. Others have said, we just want to pay a whole lot less to run ads. And so in that reality, a lot of podcasts that were financially solvent 5 years ago aren't solvent today. Huh. And the hope is that they bounce back, but why would they bounce back? Yeah, it's just a money thing. And when you think of it as just a money thing, you don't get sad.
Right.
Just keep making podcasts. Podcasts are good. We love podcasts. The money's over there. Fine.
Yeah. I have that all tattooed on this arm. We love podcasts. Podcasts are good. This is Livewire from PRX. I'm Luke Burbank. We are talking to journalist and podcaster Sam Sanders. When we get back, Sam is going to tell us about an interview that he has been obsessed with for many years. It's an interview that I also have a pretty high level of awareness of, for reasons that will become clear after this very short break. Stay with us. Hey, everybody. It's that time of year again. You've got it marked on the calendar. You're hearing the music in all the stores. That's right, the Livewire Fall Member Drive is in full swing. And this is our goal, okay? We are trying to add 50 new members. I have a sneaking suspicion that a lot of you hearing my voice right now have always dreamed of being part of the League of Extraordinary Listeners. But maybe you've been busy. Maybe you've been meaning to get around to it but haven't. And here is how you can change that right now. For just $15 a month, you can get sweet perks like a special shout out on our broadcast. You can also get discounts for our live shows at the $15 a month level. At the $25 a month level, you'll get all of that. Plus, I will give you a call to say thanks. That's right. I will call you on a telephonic device and say thank you very much for supporting Livewire at the $25 a month level. But what is the biggest perk of all, even bigger than a phone call from me, Luke Burbank? It's knowing that you are supporting independently produced public radio with a mission to amplify unique and important voices. Head on over to livewireradio.org to join us today and help support the program. Welcome back to Livewire. I'm your host, Luke Burbank, here with my friend Elena Passarello. We are listening to a conversation we recorded with the journalist and podcaster Sam Sanders live at Town Hall in Seattle, Washington. Okay, before we get back to this interview, I have to sort of set something up. Now, we're on stage, we're talking to Sam, and unbeknownst to me, he was going to start talking about an interview that I had actually done way long ago, like back in 2007. I interviewed this Icelandic band called Sigur Rós. It was not a good interview. In fact, it's often been cited as one of the worst interviews in the history of music journalism. And kind of out of the blue, Sam decided to get this off of his chest. So that's kind of what is about to unfold here. Strap in. This is Sam Sanders live from Seattle.
I've been obsessed for 16 years with an interview you did on the Bryant Park Project at NPR.
Okay. What was the interview?
Oh, you know what the interview is.
Was it
5 minutes and 19 seconds.
Was it an interview with an Icelandic band by any chance? Sigur Rós? Yes.
How do we set this up?
We're actually out of time.
No.
I'm looking at the clock.
There's a good ending. There's a good ending. There's a good ending.
Okay.
The Bryant Park Project is this new show that NPR wants to launch about 16 years ago. And it's meant to be kind of maybe a spicier version of Morning Edition.
I think that was what they were going for.
Yeah. So, Luke and Rachel Martin are hosting the show. They're great. We love them. They were doing video for the show before other shows were doing it. But one of the interviews that's on video that Luke did is with this amazing Icelandic group called Sigur Rós.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They were awful.
Oh, no.
They were pissy. They were quiet. They were sarcastic. They were zombies. And I wanted to punch them in the throat. The whole time, Luke stays committed to the bit.
Yeah.
He does not stop.
The bit being, I was very bad at interviewing.
No, you weren't. They were bad at being interviewed.
But let me. I'm seeing we have a little more time now. just say that I ran into them at a music festival backstage years later. I did, and I said, I don't know if you remember me, but they were like, were you the guy from New York?
Yes.
And by the way, their English is much better now. They were like, we were so sorry. We didn't know what we were doing. We were nervous. So we
they weren't being ass.
No, I think it was legitimately a language barrier.
They need to know that they're not coming off that way.
Yeah.
Last tidbit on this.
Okay.
I promise. Every now and then I will teach radio to undergrads or graduate students. And every now and then in class, I teach you video.
Wow.
But listen. Every time I do it, they watch, we talk, et cetera, and the last line of like the lecture is, commit to the bit. Finish.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So thank you.
You're very welcome.
Your textbook.
Journalism students of America. Okay, something that came up that you've been talking about is just what a year pop culturally this has been basically for women.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Barbie movie.
Yeah.
SZA with like 8 trillion Grammy nominations.
9, yeah. But I wish 1 trillion. She's great.
Somewhere between 9 and 8 trillion.
Yes.
Can you? What do you think is sort of behind that culturally? What's going on that we're seeing a lot of women really celebrated in pop culture, maybe in a way that it wasn't happening previously, or not in the sustained way?
I can't tell you what was behind it, but I can tell you what I hope comes next.
Okay.
Who in here Barbenheimered?
Barbenheimered?
Barbenheimered, whatever we call it. Barbie and Oppenheimer, who did that?
I've barbed. I've yet to Heimer.
Here's my thing with Oppenheimer. Great movie, but I don't go to a Christopher Nolan film for Aaron Sorkin dialogue.
Oh, okay.
Still enjoyed it.
Okay.
Anywho, when we look at the year, the biggest things in pop culture mostly came from women. Beyonce and Taylor had the biggest tours. They also have the biggest movies. SZA has the most award nominations. The list goes on and on and on. And so I've been saying on the show for a while, like, this is the year that women ruled pop culture. Hooray, hooray, hooray. I want more, you know? But I think when I say I want more, I just don't want that. After Barbie came out, there were a few op-eds trying to analyze the film's success. What did it? Oh, was it Zaslav? Was it Margot Robbie? What was it? AMC? And a lot of folks were basically saying, well, the answer here, what needs to happen to keep this going is make more movies about toys.
Oh, great.
Make more movies about toys.
Excellent.
Right.
What about, and hear me out, make more movies about women?
Yeah.
What about it, right?
Yeah.
And while we're at it, chances are, as good as Barbie was, as big as Barbie was, the surest shot for an Oscar this year from that movie is Ken.
Is Ken.
Yeah.
Ken.
Is Ken. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mattel is run by a man. Mm-hmm. Like, it's that should change too. And so, like, if we know that women excel at popular culture, why aren't they also in charge of it?
Right.
Yeah. Right.
The other thing that I learned from listening to Vibe Check is, and I didn't categorize it this way, but like the women are having such a great time.
They have fun.
And then you were talking about like Drake,
Oh my God.
and all these guys are running these like
Yes.
sullen, angry, but all the women are like
yes.
like they're making more money than an Olympics,
Yes.
having parties
Yes.
all over the planet,
Yeah.
and celebrating, toys, yes, but like toys in these big, huge ways.
Yeah.
Which I think that's such an astute point, because it's not just quality; it's vibe. Like there's so much great vibes out there.
I love rap. I've always loved rap. I cannot name right now an unhappy woman rapper. Mm-hmm. Cardi B is having a great time.
She sure is.
Megan Thee Stallion got shot in the foot. She's still having a great time.
Yeah.
And you look at the dudes. Drake is damn near incel.
Yep.
He's in a place.
Yep.
He's just like in his house playing online roulette for like $8 million to spin and having his homie film it. It's a very weird
really
existence.
Weird. Did you see the photo he did? This is not even a lie. Did you see the photo he did where after his tour, where he begged women to throw bras on stage?
Yeah.
He had his staff collect them all, put them in one of his mansion rooms, and he took a selfie in front of them.
Wow.
Go heal yourself, Drake.
Yeah. We are talking to Sam Sanders. We're at Town Hall in Seattle. And Sam, we would be remiss being here in Seattle if we did not talk to you a little bit about Vogue cover story with photos featuring one Jeffrey Bezos and his new fiancée, and some truly unhinged photos. What do you make of that whole situation?
I want everyone to pull out their phone right now. I'll give you permission.
It's the only time at a public radio taping we'll ask you to get your phone out.
Yeah. I want you to Google image search Jeff Bezos Vogue. Yes. The power of Christ compels you.
We
you
are
must
in a
do
former
this.
church.
Once you get it, make any kind of noise.
That was very interactive.
All right, you've seen it. You've seen it. How do we describe this photo? The main image, Jeff Bezos roided the hell up.
Yes.
In a vintage SUV with a cowboy hat. And his fiancée, Lauren Sanchez, is straddling him in the driver's seat.
What?
Annie Leibovitz took the photo. Still don't understand that. And it took me 5 minutes to realize it wasn't a farce. You got it up there. I see it. Isn't it wild? Jail.
Straight to jail.
Straight to jail. So we talked about the photo, and then we talked about how the whole piece was just a fluff piece, which annoyed me. But whatever. But that photo, God, this guy's in charge of the world.
I know.
Him and Elon are in charge of the world.
I do think, I think it's very complicated for Seattle because, I grew up in Seattle in the 80s, and it was a very different place. It was very blue collar. Then you have these things like Amazon come here, and initially there's a sense of, well,
this is called a thing. A thing.
These businesses like Amazon, and initially I think it was exciting because, this was new industry and business, and they were, kind of these young upstarts. And then who could have known that it would lead to the guy trying to colonize space and sex the lady from Entertainment Tonight? It's not how any of us saw it ending, or maybe some of you did. I sure didn't.
Every time I see or hear anything about Jeff Bezos, which is always against my will, the first words I say in that moment are, Mackenzie, you got out.
Yeah.
You got out. Good for you. This is ex-wife.
Yeah. And by the way,
she got out.
You're in the right room for a good Mackenzie Bezos reference, because these people all know, being from Seattle.
Yeah,
Sam,
great.
Let me just remind everybody, this is Livewire from PRX. We are at Town Hall in Seattle this week. We are talking to the great Sam Sanders. Okay. When I listen to any of the stuff that you work on, but particularly Vibe Check, I'm really struck by the breadth of your pop culture knowledge, but I will admit to being somewhat lost. And since you do know so much about it, I was hoping you could give us, really, Elena and I, the folks here at Town Hall, and the radio listeners, a bit of a sort of a guide map for pop culture. Like, help us understand how to feel about some of the stuff going on in pop culture in a little exercise we're calling Pop Culture Primer. So I just wanted to run some things by you and get your professional pop culture knower, Sam Sanders' opinion or reaction on these things. Would you be comfortable doing that?
Let's do it.
Barbra Streisand's new memoir is 992 pages.
Of course.
Is that too long, too short, or the exact right number of pages?
Barbara makes no mistakes. That's the exact length it should be.
Okay.
No mistakes.
Did you know that the audiobook is 48 hours long?
Did she read it?
Yes,
She does. She reads it.
And I bet it took her 48 years to record it.
Yeah.
Because she's a perfectionist.
Who is your favorite nepobaby? And does this audience understand the concept of nepobaby? This has become a thing lately where the internet loves to figure out which successful artists or performers are the children of somebody who's a successful artist or performer, so-called nepobaby.
I don't care how crazy she gets. I don't care what she's selling. I will always want to have a drink with Gwyneth Paltrow.
Hey.
Am I kind of crazy?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My kind of crazy. You know Gwyneth Paltrow, always on a night out, she's always the first person to suggest the second location.
Oh,
And the third.
and the third.
Love her.
And she is a nepo baby.
After the success of the movie Cocaine Bear,
I talked to the director on that one.
so you know a lot about this. What animal would you like to see battle substance use disorder next?
We had a whole list when I talked to him of other animals to try it with.
Okay.
And we were going for some kind of alliteration. But I always love a good duck-billed platypus. Why did I just say that? I've never seen one in person. So the duck-billed platypus is on
Like ketamine?
Xanax.
Okay.
Xanax.
Life is hard.
Yeah, sure.
Like the duck-billed platypus goes through so much. Everyone's always pointing out how he's a duck-billed platypus and special and
It's
weird.
a lot.
Give him a Xanax.
Let him exist.
Thought exercise, though.
Okay.
If it's a duck-billed platypus who is on Xanax, who voices the duck-billed platypus?
John C. Reilly. I don't know why.
Steve Buscemi.
Oh, that could be good too.
Yeah.
Cardi B.
Yeah.
Right? Let's take a vote.
Yeah.
Cardi B, the Xanax snorting duckbill platypus. It's like a Pixar dream waiting to happen.
If she weren't a rapper, she could be the biggest comic alive.
Yes.
She's so funny.
Very naturally
She's so
funny.
Anywho.
All right, speaking of people who are naturally funny and returning to something you previously said, Sam,
A callback.
would you go see the new musical, and this is a real thing, it's a real musical based on the Gwyneth Paltrow ski crash trial. It exists.
Shut the up.
Nope. Nope.
No.
It absolutely exists.
Who produced it? Who's directing it? Who's the star?
I've just seen the
Google it
I've
now.
Seen somebody look it up.
Shut the hell up.
Yes, so that sounds like a
Googling
yes.
It's
I'm working.
It's Steve Buscemi.
It's
Gwyneth
written and
Paltrow.
directed by Steve Buscemi. You're exactly right, Elena.
Is it A24? It's A24.
It's directed by the Safdie brothers.
Yes,
that's right.
Oh my God.
Well,
This is my favorite interview of all time ever.
thank you. Even better than Sigur Rós. Yes. Sam Sanders, everyone, from Vibe Check. Sam, thank you. That was Sam Sanders right here on Livewire. Make sure to check out his wonderful podcast, Vibe Check, wherever you get those sorts of things. Hey, special thanks this episode to the memory of Ron Eachus of Salem, Oregon. Ron was part of the Livewire member community and was generously supporting our show with a donation each month, which was so instrumental in helping us keep the show going. So thank you so much to Ron for all the support and all of you out there keeping Livewire in business. Thank you. This is Livewire. As we like to do each week, we've asked our listeners a question because Sam is so steeped in pop culture. We asked our listeners, what has been your favorite piece of pop culture from the past year? Elena has been collecting up those responses. What are you seeing?
This has been very helpful for me because I'm writing a book about a person who died in 1977. So I have been living in the past. I don't know any of these pop culture memes. So you're going to have to help explain a few of these to me.
I don't want to overpromise, but I will say for a 47-year-old person, I have more pop culture awareness than I really should. It's called low-level depression and scrolling TikTok all day. So let me see what I can do.
Can you explain to me Cam's favorite pop culture moment, which is Scandival?
Oh, sure. Of course.
Okay.
That's from Vanderpump Rules. That would be the scandal involving a couple of the characters on Vanderpump Rules, including Tom Sandoval, who did some very questionable things, depending on your sort of moral take on the world.
And what is Vanderpump Rules, Mr. Burbank?
Vanderpump Rules is about a restaurant that is owned by someone who used to be on The Real Housewives. And this person was so entertaining, Ms. Vanderpump, that then they got a restaurant and or maybe a couple of restaurants. And now there's a whole show about the people that work at the restaurant, although mostly what they do, I think, is are characters on a reality show.
Right. It's just like they drink and make out and have scandals.
They have scandal vols.
Scandival. Yeah.
Precisely. Yeah, it's a Vanderpump Rules situation. Okay, so let's see. Next one.
Now, here's one from Sal. Sal's favorite pop culture moment is the word of the year being Riz. What is Riz?
You've got the Riz, Elena, even if you don't realize it.
What? So is it low-level anxiety?
It is, but in you, it manifests in a very, very charismatic personality. When you have the Riz, you have that charisma. And when you're using it on people, you're rizzing them up.
Oh, okay. So it's a verb now. Like I'm charizzing you.
You have that Riz, Elena. And if you're really good at it, we might even call you the Rizzler. That's a real thing. People are like, okay, that person has the most Riz. They're the Rizzler of this get together.
Holy vocabulary, Batman.
That definitely does sound like a character that would show up on the old school, like Adam West version of Batman. Something else from pop culture this year that one of our listeners is excited about.
This one I know because I am an avowed Rihanna fan. This is from Sandra, the ASL interpreter at the Super Bowl halftime show. And it really says something that the person who is doing the sign interpretation has so much riz that she is stealing a little bit of Queen Riri's thunder.
I think there's enough thunder to go around, and I love this development that a lot of folks who are doing, who are interpreting with ASL at a variety of shows now, particularly when the music is really like upbeat and stuff, the way that they're expressing that to the folks that are using that kind of modality, it really is like a whole extra sort of great part of the entire experience, even if you're somebody who, doesn't need to rely on ASL. Like it just seems like it includes more people in the experience.
Yeah, and I never pass up a chance to watch one of those videos when they capture a totally compelling interpreter. Like it's always so fun to see.
Hey, thank you to everyone who sent in a response to our listener question. We've got one for next week's show coming up in a moment. In the meantime, I want to tell you about our next guest. And Elena, I think you probably remember the circumstances under which we got Reggie Watts on the show. Okay, he is a one-of-a-kind comedian, musician, and performer. You might know him from his time as the band leader and announcer for The Late Late Show with James Corden. He's got Netflix specials. He was on the TV show Comedy Bang Bang. This is the other thing, though. Reggie is always up for a good hang, which is basically exactly what happened when you and I were getting together in Portland to do our yearly fundraiser gala, Fancy Pants. And like somebody just heard that Reggie was in town and invited him over, and then Reggie just showed up. I was like, hey, y'all doing something?
Yeah, I showed up in my fancy duds and everyone was like, Reggie Watts coming. I'm like, wow.
It was like incredible and unexpected. So he jumped up on stage, and we're just going to play this. He did some jokes about generational differences, which then kind of morphed into like a spoken word poem where the Livewire house band just started kind of providing the backing track. It was very funny and weird, which is how I would describe Reggie Watts' work, and I say that with all love. So thank you, Reggie, for crashing our little get-together and making this next piece of Livewire that we're all going to hear. Check it out. This is Reggie Watts, recorded at Show Bar in Portland, Oregon.
Well, all right. If we got any Genzers in the audience, I want to do some jokes for you guys, because a lot of times Gen Z gets left out, and Alpha's coming up behind them, and they're getting a little bit more heat than the Zs. So and Mel's are here, right? They're like on the up. So, and I'm an Xer, which is arguably, it's no big deal. I mean, X is not really. It's a small generation. As we know, it's the smallest current living generation right now, and it's not a big deal. I mean, we didn't really do that much, for society. We invented skateboarding and BMXing and ramp tricks and music videos and synthesis that was used in music, and a lot of firsts, like effects that were never invented until the 80s and so forth, and the whole culture of hi-fi stereo listening, just a lot of the things that we still refer to every day that we use all the time. Generation X invented whatever. We were the first generation to use whatever properly. We got prizes in cereals. We were latchkey kids. We had multiple formats. We had records and cassettes. So that was a That was a big one. 8-Track was trying to hang on, but, didn't quite make it. We did everything we could. So we're not that, it's not that special. But Gen Z, on the other hand, though, what's up with the Gen Zs, the Genzers? What are they doing? Okay, so here's some jokes. Hey. You guys know how mid stuff is? It's so mid, that's mid plus. Have you ever mid plus me? But anyways, so I was TikToking. There was a TikTok, and then I have to admit that I was hyper mid. But anyways, Joseph did a 460, and I was no 460s here. Nah, brah, we ain't be doing that. True dat, tap that ass, dat ass. How we do this? What's up with Michael Landon? You know what I'm saying? And Gen Z is so fascinated with Michael Landon, which I don't get it, but there's a certain kind of, it's kind of cool to just pick a random person to just fixate on and be no one's gonna understand why, but it's all Michael Landon all day long, really cool, but yeah, Gen Z's got a lot going on. Gen Alpha, I'm interested. I want to get involved. I want to see what's going on with Alpha. What's going on with Alpha right now? What Alpha's, on the up? Gen Z's oh shit, I thought we were the cats. It's now Alpha's coming up. So I wrote a poem. It's about intergenerational data exchange, right? You need the wisdom of X, which is do all the drugs. I don't care about most things, and, but then you get the millennial well, whatever that is. And then, hey, how millennials are, it's hey, hello, and Gen Z. And so I wrote a poem, this is about intergenerational, just the intergenerational possibilities of the future. Actually, could you guys do a little kind of just a kind of quiet jazz kind of? It's yeah, exactly, yeah, a little 1960s kind of vibes. Yeah, all right, cool. Did not you know how it was so many years ago? You was the only one. You was the newness coming up from the ground with a whole wellspring of ideas, pushing against them oldest. Pushing against him. Say not unto you that it was not your time to be so rebellious that you pushed away all the people that was trying to help you. Nah, it was cigarettes and booze and bongs made out of apples. Yeah, sure. School, cool stuff. Not for me. I was always trying to cut the corners, AP classes, what have you, throw that away, because that's cool. Yeah, sure, Mrs. McGillicuddy, she wasn't someone special. She wasn't someone to get mad at, but still I found a way to get mad at her, and I was pretty proud of that, because she was very well liked. But I learned so much, being who I am, getting older. Other Gens coming up. Hey, Jen, what's going on? Yo, we Melly Mel. Who's Melly Mel? What do we do? I don't know. Do you know how to change a tire? No clue. I want to join a tech company so I can play ping pong and lay about in beanbag chairs. Because that's productivity, baby. Web 2.5, coming at you hard. Vimeo. Tumblr. YouTube. Oh, Hype Machine. Wait a minute. There's not as many jobs? Wait a minute. I can't buy a house? I'll never be able to buy a house? I still don't know how to change a tire? Ah, man. SSRIs. 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 Adderall. Holy shit. Ritalin? Ha. Changed my life. Hey, guys. Who are you? Hey, Gen Z. Oh, what's going on with you guys? I don't know. You know, we're humans. And we assume nothing. We are beings. And you will refer to us as the beings that we are. For we are not to be withheld or forgotten. Why am I speaking like this? I don't know. We're all in it together, you know. We can try to say we ain't, but we is. And here's the kicker. If you ain't not part of what that is, and you try to be that thing that's not a part of it, you can't escape it. So you're just gonna bury it. And where are you gonna bury it? You can't bury it anywhere because there's no place in the hard drive to hide it. Why is that? Because the hard drive is the same amount of memory. No matter how you allocate it and divide it, it's still the same amount of memory. The more you divide it, the more it turns to mush. Then you don't know what it is anymore. Existential crisis? That's just the beginning of it. Any hoozle, it's fun to be a part of everybody that's doing what they're doing. You know, it reminds me of a time that... Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. Thank you, Bam. Thank you. Thank you.
That was Reggie Watts, right here on Livewire, his new memoir, Great Falls, Montana. Fast Times, Post-Punk Weirdos, and A Tale of Coming Home Again is out now. I'm Luke Burbank, here with Elena Passarello. We have to take a very quick break, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, we are going to hear some music from indie folk rock duo Sway Wild. Stay with us. Welcome back to Livewire from PRX. I am Luke Burbank here with Elena Passarello. Okay, before we get to our musical guest this week, a little preview of what we're doing on next week's show. We're going to be talking to the writer and director Laura Chin about her really, really fascinating and funny memoir. It's called Acne. Talks about her life growing up in Florida. She was part of the Church of Scientology. She also had very oily skin. And she had to sort of figure out how to navigate her way through the world of entertainment while dealing with that. Plus, we've got some stand-up comedy from one of our very favorites, Mohamed El-Sheki, who's going to tell us about the most embarrassing Uber ride ever, featuring him as the passenger. And to round things out, we're going to hear some really beautiful music from Jenny Conley, who's one of the founding members of the Decemberists, off of her solo album. You do not want to miss this, so definitely tune in. Plus, we're going to be looking to get your response to our listener question. Elena, what are we asking the listeners for next week's show?
We want to know, what is something that took up a ton of brain space when you were a teenager that you no longer think about at all?
I've got some responses that come to mind. Maybe we'll share those next week. If you have a thought on that, something that you thought about a lot as a teenager that you just don't think about very much anymore, go ahead and hit us up on the various social media places. We are at Livewire Radio pretty much everywhere. All right, let's get to our musical guest this week. They spent 7 years playing music out on the road, and then finally, they decided to take to the sea. Dave McGraw and Mandy Fair embarked on a 2-month sailing voyage through the remote anchorages of British Columbia. That trip led to an artistic epiphany of sorts, and when they returned to their San Juan Island home in Washington State, they formed a new musical project that we're going to get to hear right now. This is Sway Wild, recorded live at Town Hall in Seattle. Can you tell me a little bit about this sailing trip that you went on in British Columbia, and why was it so artistically life-changing for you?
Yeah, the boat trip was kind of an intentional respite from the road, because when we're on the road, it's a lot of grind and interstate and making it from place to place. And we intentionally were like, let's step away from the road and see what it's like to be a human again out in the middle of nowhere. And we're really drawn to kind of those wild places, hence our name, Sway Wild. It kind of inspires and illuminates our music. And San Juan Island is remote, but it wasn't remote enough for us. So And I wanted to say, too, we used to live on a horse farm in the middle of the woods in a 400-square-foot cabin, Dave and I, and we didn't have internet or cell service, and we used to do this thing called listening to the radio.
Oh, wow.
I know. And we had a big radio that had an antenna that was the size of a hula hoop hanging on the wall. It was a metal hula hoop. But we used to listen to this program called Live Wire.
Oh.
So we're really, really, really
Wow.
happy.
Look at that. Well, this is synchronicity then, that it's finally
Yes.
all happening. It was really hard getting a hold of you guys in the woods. We had 2 staffers that we haven't seen since they went to find you, so thank you for coming. What song are we going to hear?
We're going to play a song called Home.
Okay, this is Sway Wild on Livewire.
Thank you. We were young, lighting a fire and knew what we wanted. Set ablaze through the hills. We were running from a place we call home. The road was long, but burning embers kept you on it. Even when the rain fell down. But after a while, the geese fly by and you find yourself under 'em. Not here, not there, not there, nor here. No, you're home, 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 home. She walked through the sand, a white flag in her hand, with a boy too wise for his ears. He'd been choking on the tears he cried for home, home. No concrete floor, no key to lock, no door for no key. Just a blanket underfoot and she is home, home. And when you feel it, it makes you stronger. And when you feel it, na 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 na. And when you feel it, it makes you stronger. And when you feel it, na 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 na. And when you feel it, it makes you stronger. And when you feel it, na 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 na. And when you feel it, it makes you stronger. And when you feel it, na 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 na. And when you feel it, it makes you stronger. And when you feel it, na 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 na. Thank you so much.
That was Sway Wild right here on Livewire, recorded at Town Hall in Seattle. You can check them out at swaywild.com. That is going to do it for this week's episode of Livewire. Big thanks to our guests, Sam Sanders, Reggie Watts, and Sway Wild. Plus, a special shout out this week to Sally McPherson. from Broadway Books. Happy retirement, Sally.
Laura Haddon is our executive producer. Heather D. Michelle is our executive director. And our producer and editor is Melanie Sevchenko. Eben Hoffer and Molly Pettit are our technical directors. And our house sound is by D. Neil Blake. Trey Hester is our assistant editor. Our marketing and production manager is Karen Pan. Rosa Garcia is our operations associate. Jackie Ibarra is our production fellow. And Aunt Diaz is our intern. Our house band is Ethan Fox Tucker, Sam Tucker, A.L. Alves, and A. Walker Spring, who also composes our music. This episode was mixed by Molly Pettit and Trey Hester.
Additional funding provided by the James F. and Marion L. Miller Foundation. Livewire was created by Robin Tenenbaum and Kate Sokoloff. This week, we would like to remember member Ron Eachus of Salem, Oregon. For more information about Livewire, how you can listen to our podcast, head on over to livewireradio.org. I'm Luke Burbank for Elena Passarello and the whole Livewire team. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next week. Dear Livewire, when we first met, I was really shy. I had no idea we'd spend so much time together, or that you'd be one to fill my heart with joy and make me want to be a better person. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were here. I was busy reading a review from one of our many rapturously smitten listeners. Oh, wait, actually, no, sorry. This is from Elena. Anyway, the point is, it would be really helpful if you wanted to leave us a review. Feel free to say really nice things about us, and we'll even read them now and then on the show. So you might hear your review of Livewire read on the program itself. Reviews help other people hear about the show, and then we can keep doing this for a long, long time because we love having this job. Thank you so much if you've left a review, and if you're about to leave a review, you can go ahead and do it right where you get the podcast.